Hello, everybody, and welcome to the How to Build Your Emotional Intelligence Masterclass for Leaders and Teams. Welcome, welcome. It's great to be having you with me. And all that I go through today are aspects of 3 areas I'm going to cover with you over the next few days. And the ones that you joined, so you've joined the one today, there's another one that's going to be helping you with your awareness with others, and also your awareness with your vision and your future. So today we're going to talk about your vision for yourself, your personal awareness around emotional intelligence. But before I go any further, let me just first give you an insight into who Denise is. No doubt you've been following me on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram and seeing some of the things that actually I've been wanting to share and have been sharing for a number of years now, where you as a leader or a member of a team can actually really make a difference to how you lead and how you engage with your team members. And sometimes the tasks take over. The things that we need to do on a daily basis take precedent. Today, I sent the message out that says, actually, how important and urgent is your personal development? And no matter what type of corporate strategies you have in place, no matter what the project is, if you are not taking the time out to make you important, then those milestones can be met. But can you imagine if you applied yourself fully with the skills of emotional intelligence to the tasks that you have to do in your work? That can make such a difference. So let me tell you a little bit more about how we will go through the next just the next 45 minutes or so. So today we're going to cover, and you're on here because you've taken the time out to spend time to look at your personal development. You are important. You are the one who will come the next time you go into your business or into your corporate world. You are the one taking the lead. You are the one who's going to rally those team members as much as you possibly can. You are the one who is going to motivate them and create that optimism above and beyond anybody else. And so you've taken the time out now on a Friday night to be able to just spend time looking at how you can do that. And for that, I commend you. And I'd like you, when you finished watching this, just to take notes and do something about it. Take the tips and act on them. Because unless you do that, then it won't matter. It's just another masterclass. It's just another webinar, if you want to call it that. But more than anything, I want it to be a moment in time where you took action and that action started to work and make a difference. So please make sure you take notes as we go along and at the end, more than anything. And let me tell you a little bit more as well about Denise. Who am I? You've probably been following me a lot, but more than anything, I'd like you to be assured that I do know a lot about this particular subject. Now, in terms of the qualifications, I've been ILM certified in coaching and mentoring. I then went on for leadership coaching, and then I went on and did emotional intelligence certification as well with Roche Martin, the leading corporate emotional intelligence company in the world. They work with Sky, Coca-Cola, Network Rail, British Gas, some of the companies that you may be familiar with. And they coach the corporate executives within those companies as well. And they are the same corporate executives that I have had access to be able to share my intelligence around and understanding and coaching expertise with them. So 10 plus years in multiple industries and sectors. And so whichever sector you are in, I do have the ability to be able to translate into what that sector does. But more than anything, no matter what you work on, no matter what your product is, no matter what your service, at the end of the day, it's down to who you are so that I can help you and support you to stretch, succeed, and soar. So where is the real challenge for you in your role? And how do you manage your emotions? First of all, let's look at it. Is it in your business tools and your systems? Are you struggling or finding a challenge with being flexible or looking to the future and being optimistic, glass half full or half empty? When you're thrown a challenge to change your project dates, to adjust your program, to get something in sooner rather than later, because usually that's when it is, how flexible are you? And when you consider that, how often do you then change and adjust and be aware of how you're feeling so that you will attack and deal with that particular task in the best way possible? I then want you to think about where is the real challenge for you in your role with you and others? You and others. So the first one was about your business systems and your tools that you work and use, but also what about you and others? How much is the emotional intelligence of empathy showing up? How much of the emotional intelligence of relationship skills is showing up? And how much of actually you being mutual and sharing effectively with others, how often is that showing up? And so with that, I'd like you to consider then, is that a challenge for you or not? So let's have a look. Another challenge in your role. Is it yourself? So I originally asked you, is it about your business systems, tools, and processes? And if it's not that, then is it about you and others and how you work with them? Or is the challenge with just yourself? How you set and achieve goals? How you are determined to achieve or not? How confident are you in what you do and how effective you are? And your self-awareness. Self-awareness of your emotions, self-awareness of your behavior and how you act on, how you react to, and also self-awareness of how you're communicating to others. Monologue, dialogue, encompassing or one way. So have a think about those three things for me. Yourself, you and others, and also with your tools and your systems, because based on that, that will then determine which area of myself do I work on first? Because we could just go and start dealing with everything, but I wouldn't advise that. Start with one thing at a time. What's the real challenge? Just you? When it's you and others, or is it with your systems and tools and processes? So let's take a look then at the summary of the self-confidence that we're going to cover today. You can develop in that area and no longer feel like an imposter. And trust me, every career corporate person that I tend to speak to has some element of imposter syndrome. They might call it something slightly different, and that's okay. But guess what? There is always still sometimes a fear of, I'm feeling like a fraud. What do I know? Am I qualified enough? I did that last week and I really messed up. They want me to do more of that? I hate doing that. These are all some of the things that we often say to ourselves when we are being called on to stretch a little bit more in the corporate leadership and or team that we're in. So self-confidence is broken down into three areas: self-assurance, self-liking, and self-competence. Now, in terms of those three traits, some of them can be really strong. Others could be a little bit lower than strong. I'd call it needing development, but I wouldn't call it weak. None of us are weak. We all have confidence that are stronger or needing more development in various areas. Somebody who can get hold of a project and deliver it and meet every single milestone on time is a great project manager, for instance. But then somebody else might get a hold of that project and deliver it 3 weeks early. That's still a great project manager. And then the person who still has challenges along the way and delivers that project 2 or 3 weeks later, past the deadline date, can still be a great project manager. It's how they handled the challenges along the way. That's the thing about self-confidence, is that when you look at the areas of self-assurance, self-liking, and self-competence, that's what makes up self-confidence. Let me give you a little bit more information on that. And we'll take them one by one. So I want you to ask yourself the question, what are the common confidence issues that you face. And I want you to just write that down, because these are the things that when you write them down, you'll be able to, one, name them. Two, you'll be identifying what it is that you know is at the forefront of your mind. And once you've written it down, I want you to keep going, keep writing, because guess what? Sometimes it's the second or the third or the fourth thing that is a real root cause of the confidence issue. Or it's not the first one you write down. Actually, it could be the third, fourth, or fifth thing that you write down. That could be the common confidence issue that you face. And with that, I'll make sure by the end of the session, you'll have some tips that will help you to face those really effectively and overcome them by practice. When you need a self-confidence boost, what I often say to people is, you know something? Most of us can relate to an animal. We don't always relate to a human being because our imposter syndrome tends to be linked and sometimes compared to another human being. And that's why I use an animal. And sometimes when I ask people and run this course and say, which animal would you say oozes self-confidence to you? Often I put the lion, but some people I've seen have put the butterfly. Some have put the caterpillar. I've seen some people put the alligator. I've seen some use the fly. I've seen some use the ant. Reason being, all of those animals represent a boost of confidence to them. Why? They look at how that animal is, how they react, how strong or weak they are, like the ant, how industrious it is. And sometimes that animal that they look at, they can then relate to them in a way that highlights some traits that they want to have for themselves. That's the power of using an animal. Whereas sometimes when we look at a person, like I said, we end up comparing, and could I ever be like so-and-so, or that leader, or that team member, or not? And that can be a real a detriment. It can be a detriment to our self-confidence. So I wouldn't suggest comparing to anybody but you, your quality and your level of advancement, how far you've got, look back, check. But if you're still struggling with it, get hold of an animal, look at their traits and see how they do it. So I want you straight away, here's your first tip. I want to remind you to remind yourself of your talent. What are you great at? What are you born and really good at? Now, this isn't sometimes the easiest thing to do. So as you're writing this down, the way to approach it is to think about, well, hang on. I was born with it, but often our talents are overlooked. The way to write this down is take a look at the things that most people say, oh my gosh, how did you do that? The reason I say that is because often our talent we don't recognize because we do it so naturally that it no longer becomes a stretch. It no longer becomes effort. We do it naturally because we're just natural at it. That is pure talent. Yeah. And so that's why I'm reminding you that this can sometimes be a difficult one to do because it needs to, you might have to go and speak to someone. And I dare you, please, I dare you, please do it. Tell me what do you think I'm really, really good at? Ask them and then let them tell you and put that to your list as well, okay? The other thing then is about the self-confidence boost is that I now want to go into the feeling around your self-confidence. We touched on the definition of self-assurance, self-liking, and self-competence. But a lot of that is about your abilities, your skills, and your judgment. And when you look into that into more detail, that is a powerful way to actually help you realize that actually, if I'm struggling with self-confidence, if I'm struggling with imposter syndrome, if I'm struggling of stepping up on stage, if I'm struggling with delivering this project at a certain time, is it down to my abilities? Is it down to my skills? Or is it down to my judgments? That's the key thing for you to consider. All right. So let's go into that a little bit more detail. So to get that self-confidence boost, I want you to think about your abilities will help you with your self-assurance. Your skills will help you with your self-competence, and your judgment will help you with your self-liking. So let's explore this a little bit more. So when you are able to do something without having to necessarily question it or ask someone for help, that is what we class as self-assurance. You feel pretty assured that you can get the job done. When you then think about your skills, that's really about, actually, I've got a diploma in this. I've passed this test. I've got level 7 at this particular qualification. I've got a degree. I've got a PhD. That's all about competence. It's all about applying knowledge and being tested on that knowledge and being able to put those letters after your name, which is great. And you can have amazing skills and amazing self-competence, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are self-assured or that you, like we're going to go into now, judgment, do you like yourself? Because often, no matter how many PhDs or doctors, MBEs, DRs, at the end or beginning of your name, if you don't love yourself, your confidence is just affected in such a strong way. Let's go into that in a little bit more detail as well then. When you are self-assured, you accept challenge. You are poised. You're ready. Yes, I can do that project. I can take on that program. I can get that promotion. I can be the head of that particular section. I can take on more team members. I can resource. I can do the interviews. All those things are accepting challenges. You're poised to do it, and you are self-accepting of yourself that you don't even question it. If that self-assurance is really strong, that boosts your self-confidence. So that's definitely one of the key traits around self-confidence being really strong for you. So one of the tips I'd like you to do here is think about, and I'm just going to go back one slide, think about any opportunities that you get where you have to accept a challenge. Are you poised? Do you self-accept? And if you're struggling with this particular aspect of self-confidence, then my tip there really is you've got to practice. So if your senior leader comes to you and says, I'd like you to do this particular activity, practice saying, yes, I can. Yes, I will accept it. And afterwards you might go, oh, I'm not sure if I can, but you'll work it. You'll work it out. Others have gone before and done it. You can do the same. Practice being poised. Poised can be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional, but poised is not necessarily showing that you are, but actually it's giving people an assurance as well that you have got it together. And then there's that self-accepting. Could it be me? Do you mean you really want me to do this? And even though you might say it in your mind or you might speak it out loud, practice self-accepting that yes, it's you, you're chosen for a reason, they must have considered why, and they are getting you to do this particular piece of work. That's really important for you to work on that self-assurance. So definitely practice. Let's look at the second trait. Your self-confidence, not only is broken down into abilities, but it's broken down into skills, your self-competence. Remember what I said to you about you could have many letters after your name, be really competent at what you do. You've been trained to do what you do, but sometimes you need that self-confidence boost. So look at these areas. How do you achieve your goals? How often do you take calculated risks? And how often do you highlight your confidence? So let's use that example again then. You've been requested to carry out a particular project. You've been requested to maybe run some interviews and take on another 5 or 6 people into your team. What goals do you set for yourself from that perspective? Are you trained to set goals effectively? Are you trained to make really important senior level leadership team member decisions? Do you make the right decision? How do you take those calculated risks? And what path do you follow to make sure that you mitigate risk? And how often do you then highlight the confidence such that once the program's done and you've met the deadline, how often do you go back and say, right, I did that, I delivered that, I spent X period of time. And I heard somebody saying this the other day, actually. I have spent hours, over 600 sessions of this particular activity that I've run. And they were declaring with a big self-confidence boost. Some people could probably say, nah, that's showing off. But they were declaring and highlighting their confidence in that particular program that they were running. Are you doing the same? So I want you to just set manageable goals, because if you don't, you will end up having goals not met and become unmanageable. When they are unmanageable, that knocks your self-confidence. That affects how far you go. That affects you taking on the next particular program, challenge, issue, and make you feel that you're a fraud. Possibly it could sometimes be down to you didn't achieve those goals. Also, another tip would be, why don't you just test your risk appetite? Are you easily allowing yourself to take risks or not? Check that and see how that goes. And then the last trait I want to cover here is, we talked about abilities. We talked about your skills. So your abilities for self-assurance, your skills for self-competence, and your personal judgments for self-liking. The key things to highlight, whether this is strong or not, is your high self-esteem, how much you look yourself in the mirror and agree that you are the best leader, best manager, best project leader, best advisor, best consultant ever. How often do you do that? And that links very strongly into self-respecting. Do you respect yourself? Because, as I said, you may have all the qualifications, you may have the opportunities, but if your self-liking isn't strong, that can affect your self-confidence boost, for sure. And how often do you celebrate your personal achievements? And as I said on the earlier slide, this particular person I was talking to raved about what they were doing. And it's not everybody's personality style, but actually, if nobody knows what you've done, they will never know what you've done. It's as simple as that. So this self-liking, I often find when I'm coaching clients, that this is probably one of the strongest trait that needs developing for a lot of people for various things. And often because the self-liking is from teenager time of their life or young adult time of their life. So that when they get into the middle of their careers or further on in their careers, they're finding that they've never really dealt with the self-liking, and that affects their confidence as they grow in their career. So do take note of those 3 areas. Check how and what level your esteem and self-respecting and your celebration style is for the work that you do. So here's a tip. I want you to remember your worth. No matter who taps you on the shoulder and requests for you to do something and you start to feel like a fraud, remember your worth in terms of not that you are unworthy, but that you are worthy of carrying out this particular task, program, project. And another tip would be to get accountability. So even though you might be really scared, really worried about it, not sure if you're going to meet the milestones, you can get accountability. Lean on someone to mentor you, to help you get through that level of uncertainty. even though deep down you are self-assured and you know you can do it, because you're still dealing with some self-esteem issues or self-liking, getting the accountability would be really, really powerful for you. So here are some more things to boost your self-confidence. These are just 3 that I picked out for you. Use them, take action with them, they could possibly help. These 3 talk about boost the chance for opportunities. Use every experience to thrive and learn, and remind yourself about it, sure. Second one says boost the thoughts. What you say to yourself, and focus on them every day without fail. Say it out loud, use your tongue, or think it through, and boost the thoughts about yourself. Boost what you do. Think of it as an expression of your competencies, an expression of all those letters after your name, an expression of your degree, an expression of the diploma, an expression of the levels that you have passed that make a difference in the area that you are working in, for you as a leader or for your team. So with that, I'd like to just wrap up with just one more area. What's next? What more can I get from emotional intelligence? Now, I have just given you the fastest area of self-confidence. That's just one of the 8. Actually, there are 10 emotional traits for professionals, for those who work in corporate, for those who work in businesses. There are 10 competencies that you can actually work on. Now, in order for this to be really effective for you, there are 3 programs that I have available. One is the one-to-one sessions, where we can work through your personal development and really dig deep into what needs strengthening, what needs developing. There's also an opportunity for a 5-week or an 8-week program, and that's where you can look at a 20-page report after filling out a questionnaire, which again highlights development and strengths. The 8-week program is even more powerful because not only do I question you, but I also have the questionnaire sent out to either your boss, your team members, your business colleagues, and or your family, people who know you the best. Because guess what? Even though you may feel I am not as self-confident as I should be, others may see you differently. Perception is very, very powerful. So what I'll do is put the link into any of those 3 areas afterwards into the chat. And I'm more than happy to even just have a complimentary call with you, and we can talk through what is going to be the best thing for you in order for you to grow your emotional intelligence traits. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time, and please do connect with me.